Thanks for joining us today. I'm Kent Justice, your host for This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. And so this morning, this is a return engagement to a degree. We're with Dominium, and Katessa Archer is with us. And first time I'm getting to meet John Rodriguez. But the reason that we're talking about, and we talked about a year ago, explain to us, Katessa, what the mission is of Dominium. And then we're going to talk about a really cool scholarship program and get into some of the market dynamics at play here.
Yeah, so just to remind the viewers, Dominium is a large affordable housing company. We specialize in providing workforce housing for individuals who make at or below 60% of AMI. And we keep these projects affordable for over 30 years. So our projects are a lot of home, a lot of residences, a lot of what people would consider to be quote-unquote development, but our projects go a lot further than just development. And so my job has really been focused on the front end of projects, getting projects approved, getting them closed, and getting them built. But what I think we're more proud of as a company is the impacts on lives that we have. And so I'll pass it over to John to talk a little bit more about our resident experience, but we did not get a chance to talk about that as much last time.
Well, and that's one of the reasons for our listeners and our viewers that we first got engaged. I'm like, okay, here's a company who's really kind of giving back in a kind of a cool way. So, John, we wanted to talk about Opportunities Front Door. So this is a scholarship program. What is this? How many people are involved? And I know that the scope of Dominium isn't just Jacksonville, right? But there's some impact that's happening right here.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that we as an organization recognized pretty evidently in the work that we do is that our residents not only face challenges when it comes to housing, but they also might not have the same resources that a lot of other individuals or families do. And to that end, our organization put together a program, and we called it Opportunities Front Door, and it's a scholarship program aimed at all our residents and their family members who live at any of our communities are eligible to apply for the scholarship program. And this year is a pretty exciting year for us. We crossed the $1 million threshold, and we awarded $1.6 million in scholarships.
This year?
This year alone.
Wow.
To 335 recipients across the United States, and that's across our 200 plus communities in over 20 states. And even here in Jacksonville alone, there are 3 local recipients either going to school here or living at Oaks at St. John's down in St. Johns County who were recipients.
So what is required for an applicant, or how are those decisions made? And then what's kind of the level of scholarship? A couple $1,000s, or is it a bigger thing than that?
Yeah, so they're each $5,000 scholarships, and all an applicant has to meet is to be a resident at one of our communities or the family member of somebody at those communities living with them. So it might be a child who's about to go to university, to college, currently starting a vocational program, and they just have to fill out an application sort of telling the story, telling, you know, what they're studying, what they're hoping to achieve with the scholarship. And then a special committee in our organization made up of leaders at our organizations, property management staff, folks on the development team across our entire company meet and sort of go through each of those applications and really determine where the biggest need is. And our goal is honestly as a company to award as much as possible. So that's why we're excited that this year we crossed the $1 million threshold, because we had applications to be able to
$1.6 million is not a drop in the bucket.
It's not, no, not at all.
Right?
Not at all.
That's impressive. And what I didn't hear you say was the people applying for a scholarship have to be committed to a 4-year university. You said trade programs also. What's involved with the scholarship?
Absolutely. So it can be any form of higher education. So a traditional 4-year program or vocational training, technical training. That's one of the things that was really important when we created the program, was that we also have an understanding that not every individual goes to a traditional college or university experience, that they may be looking to improve their education or their skill set in different ways to get different jobs, to increase their opportunities. And so one of the missions of the program is to make sure that they can apply for any kind of education that they're hoping to achieve.
Is there something that Dominium gets back from that? Are you looking for workforce development through the people who live there? No, I mean, what's the purpose of this kind of scholarship program?
The purpose is honestly purely charitable. We don't expect anything in return. We see housing as one part of economic development, but the other part of that is also education. And so we really hope that the program, that we can stabilize housing costs for our residents through our developments and through our communities, but that we can also help residents on the other side of that. So now that they've secured stable and affordable and safe housing, that they can then go pursue some form of higher education. And the hope is that, they're able to achieve whatever goal they set, whether that's a home or anything else.
Yeah, and I think from our perspective, especially on the development side, as the ones who are kind of championing these projects on the front end, what we really like to see out of this is when we provide the housing, the basic need of housing, people then have capacity to start focusing on the other areas of life that aid in their stability, like John said. And so being able to see the progression of our residents and the progression of their children's and the household is just something that is incredibly full circle for us. And so what we see it as is really an extension of what we're doing with the housing, an extension of what we're doing with these resources to go even further than just providing the bricks and mortar at a discounted rate. And so I've been incredibly proud to see this program take off. I'm excited about the 3 residents that are in Jacksonville. I think that's super exciting for us the first year. So
Are you at liberty to talk about those 3 scholarship recipients here in our area?
Yeah, so 2 of them live at Oaks at St. John's, which is a community that Dominium acquired a couple of years back and is just about to finish the renovations on. It was a $6 million renovation.
Where is that exactly?
Just south, correct me if I'm wrong.
right off of US 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 of them are residents there, and they're attending either local university or somewhere across the state. And the other one attends Jacksonville University and is a resident of Orlando, but she's studying here locally.
Yeah. Well, obviously making an impact for those 3 and the other 332 recipients across the country,
Yeah.
you said, in 200 communities in 20 states. Obviously a big program. Glad to see that there's that local connection here. Katessa, I definitely wanted to talk to you just about some of the marketplace dynamics.
Yeah,
it's something, affordable housing is something really in the news these last several years. And I think we saw a heightened level of interest in housing costs and what is affordable over these last few years since pandemic even. What is the state of, I guess, that industry or the market and what Dominion is trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so I would say generally the industry is still incredibly undersupplied.
There's a big need.
There's a huge need, and that need is continuing to get greater. I know it seems kind of counterintuitive because a lot of what's been discussed as a part of the market is the market in Florida, the market in the wider United States, is that there's so much supply of apartments that have come forward, specifically since COVID. There was a building boom. We're seeing supply being delivered and stabilized, which means that the projects are coming available out of construction, and they're getting leased up, and we're starting to see a little bit of a decompression in rental rates. But we fully anticipate by 2026, those rental rates again are going to heighten in a way that's going to make it incredibly difficult, especially in urban areas, for existing residents or younger folks or people who are making kind of that level that we serve at Dominium much more difficult to find housing. And it's already difficult, so you're expanding on the issue. But what is interesting is we're seeing a slight dip in some rental rates depending on the market and the amount of supply that's moving in. So specifically in Jacksonville, that's very evident. I know a lot of your viewers have probably been seeing a lot of apartments coming online, just nearing completion. I stay very focused on kind of rental rates here and what does this look like compared to the population and rents that we charge at our properties. And we have seen them slightly come down, but with the limited supply that has came forward or started construction in 2024, we do anticipate that there's going to continue to be a lack of supply in this market, and the rents are going to continue to increase, which just exacerbates the need to move forward with housing that we provide.
So I wonder if you'd help just educate us, because hey, a lot of the folks who are watching, they are in business and certainly understand some of the details, but for the broader scope, how is it accomplished? Affordable housing. Hey, it costs money to raise up these residences out of the ground. It costs money to, how is it accomplished? What are the factors that make it affordable for people who are in that place.
Yeah, so what makes our projects affordable is essentially we utilize a federal tax credit to get our projects done. That is the main subsidy source that allows us to essentially fill a large gap in our capital stack to be able to get these projects to a closing. And so the use of the federal resource, it comes from the federal government, it's allocated by the state. We utilize that to move projects forward and essentially get them closed, which is a unique resource that affordable housing developers can only use. Market rate developers can't use it. There's some projects that are moving forward that are considered affordable but don't use that resource. But with that resource and in exchange, to answer your what makes it affordable question, we're committing to essentially cap those rents on an annual basis based on what 60% of AMI in a specific location could pay for rent, assuming 30% of their income is dedicated towards that. And that equation is actually set up by HUD. It's nothing that we administer personally. If anything, we'll look at rents and depending on what the market dynamics are, the only way we can really move them is down if we need to move a project forward and get it leased up, or the market is softening like I was discussing earlier. But in exchange for those credits and the capped rents, essentially, we then commit again to 30 years of affordability. And so those credits are used to make a really high quality product up front, which then will continue to serve the specific area, location, market for at least 30 years at those capped rents.
So we talked about a community there in St. Johns County. I think a year ago or last time we connected, we were talking about Dominium was pursuing some property there in St. Johns County. And I guess the approvals were denied. What is that about? And it's certainly not exclusive to Dominion being kind of pushed back on.
Oh, no, absolutely not. So our approvals were denied, and the project was called Preserve at Wards Creek. It was a great project, bringing a much needed affordable component to St. Johns County that did not previously exist, especially in this location where we were proposing it. But what the approvals mean that they were denied is our project proposal was denied the correct zoning to be able to move forward. And that was a decision that was made by the 5 sitting county commissioners. I think it's 5 there. Yep. So 5 sitting county commissioners through much collaboration and conversation who felt that at this time this was not the correct project and this was not the correct location.
So they weren't going to rezone it for you?
They were not going to approve the rezoning, yes. And so we went through about 9, I think it was almost 11 months of rezoning conversations to try to get that project over the line. And St. Johns County specifically in this location, which oftentimes happens within the affordable housing space, we're competing against other priorities. And affordable housing is a major priority for a lot of jurisdictions, but there's also conversations on how do we manage growth, how do we manage infrastructure, how do we manage traffic, how do we manage schools. And our project is, somewhat caught in the crosshairs of those local market dynamics. So that's essentially what happened on that project.
Yeah, and when you talk about St. Johns County, one of the highest growth areas in the state, for sure, and those other conversations are always, hey, somebody wanted to build a Chick-fil-A outside a neighborhood near a school. Right. Oh my goodness, what's the traffic going to be? I mean, all of those things, yes. They're just dominoes that fall and I'm sure impact what the local governance municipality has to say about the project that's proposed.
Absolutely, and I think what our position is and what my position is as a developer is affordable housing cannot get left behind as a part of these conversations. I firmly believe that affordable housing is one of the main infrastructure components that needs to be a critical part of the conversation, because the more that we don't develop this type of housing, the worse off residents are within that specific area. And they lack housing options that otherwise would become available when they're already in such a state of scarcity. And I don't remember specifically, a few months ago on what I was reporting in regards to what that scarcity was for that specific location. But it's definitely over 5,000 households, if not more. And that's an incredible amount of housing that is needed in St. Johns County. It's needed in Duval. It's needed all in the Jacksonville MSA. And there are not enough kind of approvals out there right now to be able to solve that specific issue and also solve workforce housing needs.
We're talking about the scarcity. You were talking a moment ago about, hey, we think that the price is coming down, but they may be going back up. How does that balance each other out? If more housing comes online,
Yep.
Does that flatten out that curve of the rental prices?
It does generally for a time. So it will flatten it for a time, but what I find interesting specifically about the Jacksonville market is you guys are still seeing a 2% population growth. That is significantly higher than the population growth that we're seeing across the nation. And so there are people still moving to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
There are jobs that are coming into Jacksonville. I'm sure you cover it on this podcast quite a bit. There's a lot of movement to Jacksonville that in 2023 the market was very reactive to that movement and that initial population growth, but we have not seen that population growth let up. And so although there is an oversupply of apartments and we're seeing that kind of decompression in rents, which is great for the local community, get into some rentals while you can, we do believe because of the population growth moving forward that those rents are going to continue to increase, even though there might be a slight discount to market that folks are seeing right now.
Yeah. So let's wrap up here. Dominium, what are the plans for Northeast Florida? Any plans to expand throughout the region?
Yeah, absolutely. So like John said, Oaks at St. John's is a project that we're incredibly proud of. That project is in off of US 1 by Nice High School, where we just finished a major renovation. And so I encourage folks to go see the quality of housing that we invested in and extended affordability another 30 years. That was a great introduction into the market. And what my job is now is to find the next Preserve at Wards Creek opportunity. And so I am looking all over Northeast Florida for opportunities and really believe in our ability to get affordable housing done and get it done right and quickly, to be able to partner and be one of the go-to partners for affordable housing in this market. So,
John, let me get you back in on the conversation. You didn't fall asleep over there.
No, I didn't.
Katessa, yeah. You talked earlier about how proud you are of what the company does in terms of investing, and your role seems to be about that resident experience and everything.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just looking for what's the power of your belief in what you can do as Dominium expands here or finds that next Preserve at Wards Creek opportunity or that kind of thing. What does it mean to the people who are eventually going to be moving in those neighborhoods?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. One of the things that makes Dominium pretty unique and that I know we're all particularly proud of is because we don't just develop but also manage our communities. It means that we want to be good partners in the regions and the neighborhoods that we live in. And so we look for opportunities not just to build on resident experience, but also to engage with local nonprofits and organizations and help support the housing that other folks are building across the space. And so we're always on the lookout, and we're continuing our engagement with local nonprofits and other people building housing in that area to just support that mission, even if we ourselves are not building a community just yet. But while we get there, we can still do the work to make economic and housing opportunities better in Jacksonville and the greater area.
Business not always easy, but when you've got something that you can hang your hat on and say, this makes a difference, this makes an impact, obviously it makes it easier to just go full force after it and achieve. Thank you so much. So Katessa Archer, great to have you back.
Thank you.
And John Rodriguez, great to meet you today, the team from Dominium here with us. And thank you so much for watching or listening today. You'll find more episodes right now on News4Jax Plus, online, wherever you get your podcasts. So where you do that, like, subscribe, follow, and thank you for joining us for This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition.